Welcome to the Weekend Power Platform podcast, where builders, dreamers, and weekend warriors come to level up. I'm Sean, and every episode we dive into real stories, smart tips, and the creative magic behind the Power Platform and AI. Let's get into it. Good
No.
morning, and welcome to the Weekend Power Platform. Here we are again. Kim, Kayla, thank you for joining. You two are my very first guest on the first podcast. So I'm excited to have you guys back again. And today, maybe going in a little bit deeper into what you guys have been up to, what you're building, and how your role is shaping AI. So thank you for joining, and let's get into it. Kayla, I have a couple questions for you. Since you're close to the front lines at Microsoft, what groundwork are you seeing organizations do before they're ready for AI?
This is a really good question, Sean, and I don't think that there is a true blanket answer, right? It's not a one size fits all because every organization is going to be different in what they need AI for, how they're using it. So I think foundationally, there's a couple things that we can do. First and foremost, organizations are there's a need to understand, hey, we want AI. What AI do we need to use? How do we secure AI? So there's kind of, I'm going to say, an entire process of you almost have to spin up like a governance team to understand how do we control this thing, right? I like to think about it as when you look back at when Power Apps started becoming a thing, right? We're doing low code business applications. And then we started opening this up to, everybody, right? Citizen developers. Well, that in theory is really exciting because yes, we can spark creativity, we can spark new buildings, spark new ideas. However, the governance piece of that and the security piece and the does this make sense to even, populate in our environment piece, right? That has to be accounted for. So ultimately, I think that the foundation of everything, in my opinion, is knowledge, right? Educate yourself on what's out there. What are AI use cases that folks are using? What are the tools and the platforms that are available? And then some type of governance committee needs to be created. That might be and probably should be a combination of IT, security, business, right? You need representation from each piece because the business is bringing the use cases. They might also be bringing some end users who want to create AI capabilities. IT is also probably bringing folks who are going to build AI. They're also going to be managing those tools. So I want to stay in what's going on. And then security has to make sure that my data is not leaking. This agent has access to the right thing and it isn't overprivileged, as well as responding to the new threats that occur because AI opens up a whole different plethora of threat vectors like prompt injections. So you have to bring everybody together. I think that for me, I look at it like what's the best starting point, right? Gather your foundation, get your team formed, come up with one or two use cases that you really want to go after and attack that would have business value, but also seems like a low hanging fruit, right? So you can get your feet under you and start creating something that's meaningful to your organization and keep it small scale at first, right? You don't want to pilot something to the entire organization while you're figuring out how do I govern it, how you're figuring out does it have the right controls over it. That's kind of where my brain goes with that, Sean. I guess I'd love to hear your thoughts, what follow-up questions or your thoughts on what I've shared, because that was a lot. I can keep going.
Yeah, from your perspective and in the leadership role and out, working with customers and doing that, what is your thought on
Yeah,
what
no, I
needs to
mean, I
be?
think that's like so I have so many thoughts. I probably shouldn't have had so much coffee this morning. It's always my problem. So I
Caffeine is
no,
good.
like yeah, I think coffee is very good. I think definitely Kayla nailed it. Like there is that need to kind of make sure everything is secure. And I would say that the number one thing that people are concerned about that we're talking to is security and what are those guardrails like. So we always like to say like there's some landmines that you need to take care of right away. So like Entra, right? What is your security? Do you know how is Entra set up properly? Is everybody using those types of logins and looking at that first and then also looking at like purview? Like what can people access? What data is out there? Where is your data? It's always interesting to have conversations and be like, yeah, it can search SharePoint. Well, what's out on SharePoint? Like what do you have out there? Are there HR records out there? What types of records are out there? Do they have the correct permissions today to those different libraries and files? So I think there's a lot of just kind of homework on the IT side and on the technical side just to make sure the environment is ready for AI. And, because I've been in some places and maybe I've been responsible for that for SharePoint too, and things get a little bit out of hand. So really doing a good audit of how secure your data is and then how good your data is. So, business, the business is going to bring use cases, but it's also going to bring a lot of data with it. So, making sure that that data is good, making sure that you clean up that data, if there's stuff that should be archived or moved off or just deleted, making sure that happens. So, I think what we're seeing and what we're talking to people about first is kind of that governance, identity, data, and cleaning all that stuff and making sure it's ready for AI. And then once we are building agents, it's really being careful about how you build them and making sure it's kind of there's a human in the loop. So, like, you know, build the agent, you put in some checkpoints so we can validate that it's doing what we think it's going to do. And, agents do bring and AI brings a little bit of, I don't know, kind of spice to life, right? It's a little bit unpredictable. So making sure that you have guardrails built in and making sure you know how to test it, right? Like there's a little bit of variability there on some of the answers when they come back and making sure that you understand that and understanding, well, I didn't expect it to do that. So let's build a new guardrail in. So I feel like there's a lot more testing and kind of validation to take that variability a little bit out of it.
Right. So I guess that's what we were talking about is like, what's the biggest security or governance gap you're seeing right now is people just turning stuff on and kind of making sure that everything, just like you were saying, that you've got security and permissions and data and all of that. But is there any specific things that you're seeing right now as far as like the biggest gap as you're working with customers and out in the community?
I I mean, I think it is data. So, I really truly because it's we have so much data now, you know? You think about 20 years ago, we never created this much data. There is data everywhere. Teams, SharePoint, emails, like it's your ERP, whatever other systems you have running, it's really understanding that data and understanding who has access to it. And that's probably the biggest point, right? You know?
I think it's interesting because I think data has been the thing we've tried to just shove under the bed for however long, right? Well, I don't have to deal with this right now. What we have is good enough. Yeah, AI is forcing the data acknowledgement. Let's pull this out from under the bed. Let's figure out what drawer this has to actually go in because to your point, right? If I don't know what kind of data I have, I don't know what I'm potentially leaking or exposing out into the world. But 100% agree, Kim. It is definitely the data is AI is bringing a lot of awareness to our data organization or lack thereof.
Yeah, every day go into Copilot in the researcher, and I'm like, "Okay, plan out my day. What am I missing?" And it's amazing to me how it goes. Goes through emails, your calendar, your Teams chats, like all of your system, and is like it starts bringing up things that I'm like, I kind of forgot that we talked
Hmm.
about that. And how did you know that? Like, it must have been in a chat or it was in an email. But yeah, it's really kind of scanning through like everything that you have on your organization. So, Kim, I have one question for you. How is AI reshaping strategy at the leadership level?
Wow, that's a great question. I think,
Full of good ones today, right?
I know you're really gonna make me think hard today. Um, so especially after I messed up couldn't do time zone math to get on here in enough time. So I think from a strategy viewpoint, the thing that leadership that we're seeing from leadership is it's the number one concern. Is it safe? And then what are the things that I can do with it? And what are the things that are going to move me forward? So understanding like the things that it can do, how it needs to be governed. It's a very different world now. Before it was just like everything is pretty cut and dried, right? It's your ERP, it's your M365, all of that type of stuff. Now you've got AI, and AI is kind of this nebulous thing, right? It could be Claude, it could be Chat, it could be Copilot, it could be all of those things at the same time. and how is my organization leveraging those? It's almost like there's too many tools to consider. So from a strategy perspective, leadership really has to sit down and kind of say, okay, we're going to make a decision that for like the next 60 days, these are the tools we're going to use. These are the things that we're going to focus on 60, 90, or however many. But you've got to put some guardrails around it and say, these are the things we think we want to use, and let's use them and see, how that works for us. Because I mean, let's face it, there's a new tool every 5 minutes. So, it's figuring out something to commit to and something to do so that you can actually get some progress. And then, it's constant evaluation now. Think everything just speeds up at kind of light speed. A 3-year plan, it's going to look so different in 3 years. Yeah, you can make a 3-year plan, but tomorrow it's like out the door because there's some new AI that now can run everything. So, yeah, it's a little hard strategy wise.
Right. Kayla, do you have any kind of thought?
Like
I
I have
I
to
can see
echo,
something
yes.
percolating here.
I'm like, oh, I'm over here, like there's thoughts coming. No, I have to echo what
Yeah.
Kim said from the speed of strategy and how strategy is, right? Like if you think about traditionally, we might used to set strategy for the quarter or for the year. And now AI and AI's ability to tap into my business's data changes how fast I need to be adapting my strategy, because I might have set a goal for Q1, but 2 weeks into Q1, I have an AI report that is showing me things I didn't even know existed in my business, right? So now I have to adjust my strategy. So there's the speed of adjusting my strategy based on new incoming information. I also think that when you think about traditional software development, right? Like when we're working on ERP or CRM projects, we were really having conversations that forced business and IT together, right? And that was the starting point of something. I think AI pushes that even further, because now as a leader, I'm not just concerned about, do my business people have these tools that make them more efficient, better at their jobs, and driving more revenue. I also have to think about, how is my IT team managing this? What are my security threats? So it is forcing that, I'm going to say, the melting pot of my business, where I have to oversee everything at once, even more so than business application development did originally. And I'm sure that goes further than business, or goes farther back than biz apps, but that's where my brain goes with that. And then also, the security and trust piece. That is, I think, if we're looking at a triangle here, that's our third triangle, because now I have to think about privacy, compliance. I mean, there's new rules happening all the time, AI regulations that I have to be adhering to, that I need to make sure that the rest of my team is adhering to, because I know that there's a lot of developers. I just want to push stuff out there because this is cool. But then I have compliance leaders who are like, that's cool, but here's a compliance issue. So I think that there's a pillar there. Ultimately, and this is a saying that I got off of Copilot, I think that AI is raising the bar for leadership, and it's forcing leadership to evolve even further from a strategy perspective.
Yeah, and I think just to echo that a little bit too, I feel like AI enables leaders from a strategy position to go really fast. So it can help you come up with strategies so quickly. The problem is the rest of the organization cannot move that fast. It's putting that, like, deciding that time box, right? So I've created this strategy and it's one we can execute in 60 days, and I got to give the business the ability to move with me and make that correction and get on that path with us. And then it's like, okay, now, even though I may be like creating more strategy and more strategy, I got to wait till that next gate so that I can, like, now, okay, here's what we're going to do to take this further. So I think it's that also that kind of, we can go so fast, but you can only turn the organization so quickly and get them on the same page with you. So it's almost like strategy also becomes change management. I mean, those
Hmm.
two words almost become like simultaneous, because
Just
you
thinking that same thing.
and kind of trying to get everybody on the same boat.
Absolutely. I really feel like a lot of the conversations that I have with customers with AI, it's less now about technology, and a lot of the conversation is around, it's change management. Like,
Yeah,
we're reorganizing a governance team. That's
yeah,
change management.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
pushing out to end users and teaching them what to use AI for.
yeah,
That's change management. So I love
yeah.
that call out. Thank you.
Yeah. No, it's like I'm driving the speedboat and everybody else is on the freight liner. And so I'm driving circles around them, but they're still trying to turn. So
Yeah.
it is kind of crazy how you can just go so fast now and there's so many possibilities. So yeah. That's kind of how I picture it in my mind.
Yeah, I was thinking that how do you kind of balance that? And you're right, like you're on a speedboat and you want to just go, but you also know too, like everybody else is not just going with you. And how do you balance that? And I think that's right, change management. And that's going to be probably our next 6 months, next year, um, doing that.
But I also think too, if you go through those cycles, you've had a strategy, you time box it for 90 days, you'll get faster and faster. Like the organization will start getting used to that kind of time box and what they need to do in that time period. Whatever you pick. Pick 30, pick 60, pick 90, something.
And I'm gonna put this out to both of you, but what signals or what tells you that an organization is ready for AI? I know what you guys are gonna say.
Kim, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Well, I think going back to change management, right? Like if they have a really good change management process and went through some big like an implementation or re-implementation or like of CRM or ERP or whatever it is, and they went through that very successfully. I think that helps. They can embrace change and they can move forward. I also think it helps to have a really good relationship between like the business and IT. If those two butt heads, it's not gonna any project you do, whether it's AI or anything else, is not gonna go smoothly. I also think it helps if you have support from leadership. You have to have that buy-in from leadership that, yeah, we're gonna give you some room to experiment with this and come up with it and give them that empowerment to take that on as a project. So I think those are my top ones. What about you, Kayla?
I mean, Kim, I think you nailed it on the head. My brain goes back to the conversation we had about data and maybe having some level of data governance in place that you think is meaningful. I think the coordination between the different parts of the organization, IT, business, leadership, I think that that is an absolute must have. I also do think that there needs to be the ability to partner with the right partners because AI is going to be a journey, and because of the rate of rapid acceleration of AI, right? You want to be working with the right people who are starting to experience these use cases, working on getting this implemented. Because Kim, Sean, you guys are going to be able to call out, hey, here's something that we saw in this last project that we want to consider. You want to be able to tap into that organic knowledge that you're gaining as you're going through the process. So I think the desire and willingness to partner is also a really big tell. I don't think I could add anything else though. Kim nailed it. Mic drop.
What's the simplest safeguard teams can put into place today?
Simple safeguard? I don't know if simple is even a possibility here. I'll start with this. I think that you need to start off with data governance. There's tools out there that help with identifying sensitive and labeling sensitive documents, preventing people from accessing them. You need to have some level of data governance. So I'd say tooling there. Yeah, there is no simple approach though. That's where I would
Yeah.
start. Kim, what are your thoughts here?
I don't feel like it's simple. Like, I go back to the Power Platform analogy. I feel like even though it was low code, no code in the Wild West, there were still very clear guidelines, right?
Hmm.
Like it's very in a box what we could do with Power Platform. There were very clear outcomes. And I think from end user's perspective or from an organization's perspective, the biggest thing they could do is when they test, put a human in the loop.
Hmm.
Build it so that you're not automating things right out of the bat. Like it's even when it goes to production, like you do a ton of testing and test or sandbox or whatever environment you're in before you move to production. And even when you move it to production, there's a human in the loop until you are
Hmm.
really sure that that is giving you the results that you want or the outcomes that you want. And then it's like, okay, I feel like we're all comfortable enough. It's been running for 30 days. We feel good about what the outcome is. We feel good about what it has access to. Now we can automate it. So I think that to me is the first thing. Like, people have to understand you can't just flip a switch and let it go. There's got to be a period where you're running it with a human in the loop.
Right. And I like what you say too, just testing it, monitoring it, looking at it, making sure that it's giving you what you need first before kind of rolling it out to the mass. Okay, do you guys wanna anything else you wanna kind of talk through and give our listeners some advice from the Kim and Kayla show?
I have Well, I'm working at Microsoft. I gotta talk about some Microsoft stuff.
I know, that's why I
Uh,
wanted to open it up for you guys.
I think there's a couple things that I want to talk about. The first one being, and this is just sharing with the audience, right? When you think about AI governance and how do I manage all of that, I think the tooling that you choose is very important. And why do I say that? Because when you think about, I want to go build an AI agent, where are you building that? Maybe that is, I'm going to use Microsoft stuff because that's what I know, Copilot Studio. Maybe that's AI Foundry. You want to consider what type of governance and controls do I have in that tooling? Do I have the ability to limit who gets to author this, who gets to publish this? Do I have the ability to say in that tool, here's the stuff that my agent has access to? Do I have the ability to uh, do things like prevent jailbreak and look at like how safe is my agent? So tooling is going to be important. The other thing I want to talk about is the end-to-end governance piece. When I do have an agent and I'm ready to push it out to my people and I want to monitor it continuously. Well, how are we doing that? If you look at Copilot Studio, you look at AI Foundry, standalone, I'm going to have some governance tooling, but you guys have probably heard about Microsoft's Agent 365 at this point. And I'll talk about this briefly, but really what that tool is doing is it's bringing together, I'm going to say, security elements that have already existed that we're using for users and applications. So it's bringing together the Microsoft Admin Center, Purview, Intra, and then Defender. And it is basically adding a layer that is saying, AI is now an identity piece. And so with that identity piece, I'm going to be able to use Entra to give my agent an ID. And then I can use Entra to say my agent has access to these permissions. And then I can use my Microsoft Admin Center to view every agent that's in there and manage the onboarding process to say, yes, push this out, or no, don't push this out, or identify threats that Purview sees or threats that with data security or threats that Defender sees with, jailbreaking. And then I can say, well, I'm just an admin here, but let me make sure that my security team is also looking at this alert for this AI agent. Otherwise, I'll just block it until they say this is fixed. So Agent 365, you're going to hear the words, it is the control plane for AI. And what I want to like hit home on is it's not a whole new vehicle. It is another layer to existing vehicles that people know and love that is adding that level of like end-to-end governance that everyone's been asking for. So that's my extra thoughts, my bonus thoughts from Kayla. So thank you for the opportunity to share that. Kim, I'll pass to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am so excited. I can't tell you how excited I am for Agent 365. Like, I saw it in like a keynote at the AI and Copilot conference, and I'm like, I want it now. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
May 1st. I'm like, I gotta wait a whole month for this. So yeah, I can't wait to see it and actually use it. Because I think it's important too. The other piece it'll give you is how many people are actually using the agent. So if you build an
Mm-hmm.
agent, you push it to production, and if nobody uses it, then obviously we missed the mark on that use case. So, it'll give you a great opportunity to go in and adjust it or talk to the users and figure out what's going on. One thing I think you touched on, though, that I don't think a lot of people understand is the security tags or the sensitivity tags on documents. And I think that to me is like there's a lot of people that I don't think understand or know or are even tagging their documents today with those sensitivity labels and how that's gonna affect when they start moving towards AI. So I think if nothing else, if you take away from this, go look at your data and go make sure you're doing that, or you start doing it today, and then you may want to consider what you do with all that data that's not tagged. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of my takeaways.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, thank you both for joining today. I feel like we're gonna have to have one like maybe every month or so and just kind of talk about different topics and stuff's moving so fast and what you guys are working on and doing. So I look forward to having other sessions with you. Is
Yes,
there
same.
one last word of advice or anything you want to have the listeners or something for them to try? Because this is our Weekend Power Platform podcast, and we get on the weekends and learn together and do stuff. But do you have a challenge? Do you have anything you want to leave the listeners with today?
I stayed up late last night playing with the agents in BC, like creating one from scratch. And I would definitely encourage everyone to go out. If you have BC or Business Central, definitely go play with that. It was a lot of fun. I stayed up way later than I wanted to. because I was having so much fun.
In the zone. Agent creation
I
is so
was.
much fun.
Yeah.
I think from a hands-on, I think Kim commented on let's be hands-on with agents. Be hands-on with your data security. So I'm a big Purview fan now. If you haven't checked out Purview, go do some reading on it, watch some YouTube videos, or if you've got the licensing in your environment, just go look at it and poke around in there because the capabilities that it has in terms of data security are really going to come into play very strongly as you and your organization start developing AI. So figure out that governance piece and like go start with Purview.
That's your starting point, right, Kayla?
There we are.
All right. Well, thank you, both of you, for joining and had a good conversation. And build with intent, build with clarity, and build responsibly. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks,
Yay.
Sean.